What's up, people? Good afternoon. Hope you're having a pretty good Monday to get your week started off. And I want to talk about something with this Seahawks team through 8 games. A thing that I've kind of really started to pick up on here because it is kind of in direct contrast with something that I was talking about last year when it came to this team. And not only is the effect of this turning around shown in our record, but it also shows in our future prospects. So last year, one of the things that I looked at this team and noticed and was concerned about was player development. Or more specifically, I looked at our team, I looked at our players, and by and large, I couldn't find any players that seemed to be improving from the previous year. I looked at these players in 2020. I looked at these players in 2021, and I was like, they're either worse or the same. The couple who maybe got better are largely insignificant. The ones who got better are like, it's not helping the team that much. Maybe you can make an exception for a guy like Jordan Brooks, but really Brooks just got to play more. I don't think he got massively better as a player. So I was like, okay, if our players are not getting better as their careers go on, then that has me concerned about our player development. How are we developing these players well if we're not seeing year-to-year improvement? And I stand by that take, but 8 games into 2022, I wanted to kind of ask the same basic inquiry. Through 8 games for the Seahawks in 2022, who's improving? And we actually have a few. And not only do we have a few, but the ones that we have are hugely significant. So to kind of contrast last year to this year, where last year things were just kind of stagnant. We're actually seeing some real player development from last year to this year. So let's look at some of these guys here. Starting with the offense, there are really just 2 guys here, but this is significant. I'm talking about Geno Smith, first and foremost. I mean, he's a quarterback. And one thing I said a bunch this offseason was, look, Geno Smith has been in the league for about a decade. He's been on multiple different teams. He's been, what was it, the Jets, the Chargers, the Giants, and now the Seahawks. So he has been around. And the odds of a quarterback getting passed around the league like that and then finally getting an opportunity to start and becoming some great player was thin. So now that it has happened and Geno Smith is playing great football, you got to give maximum credit to everyone who made that happen. So this coaching staff, not only is Geno much better than he was in New York, like when his career started, but beyond that, Geno's better than he was last year with the Seahawks. We saw Geno for 3.5 games last year. He was okay. He was decent, passable. But this year, he's been really, really good. So that is a significant improvement from a player that pretty much everyone else in the league had given up on. Nobody looked at Geno Smith and went, yeah, I want to bring that guy in to be my starter. No, people looked at Geno Smith as a joke. He was a punchline. So that alone is well beyond anything we saw last year from the Seahawks in terms of their player development. Geno Smith has gone from an okay, high-end backup to a genuine, legitimate plus starter. Now, the rest of the offense, I mean, Lockett's having a really good year, but I don't think he's better. I think Lockett is having about the same season he usually does. Really, nothing going on the offensive line in terms of guys who look better from last year. Maybe Blythe, but Blythe wasn't playing last year, really, so that's not even fair. I don't think the guards look better, but the one guy I want to spotlight here on the offense other than Geno would be Will Dissly. Will Dissly, he had 2 straight years of just being, like, physically present on the field, right? He would average maybe a catch and a half a game. He would give you a couple first downs a game. He was really good at converting first downs. He had a high conversion rate on his catches, but he seemed like a guy who was going to be stuck in that mode where best case scenario, he's your backup tight end. He gives you 25 catches, 250 yards, and he would be a good blocker. So far this year, he's advanced. He's kind of gone back to what he looked like he could have been before he got hurt. When he got hurt, Those first 2 years, he was off to the races, both years, 2018, 2019. And it seemed like that Dissly was gone forever. But this year, it looks like he's kind of back. And I don't think Dissly's going to have any 1,000-yard seasons, of course, but you look at what he's done so far. You look at the rest of the season. You look at the number of games he's played. And Dissly it's within the realm of possibility that he ends up very close to a 5,505 season. 50 catches, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Unlikely, but he'll probably get close. Probably 40 catches for 400 yards at least, and that would be by far a career high. So Will Dissly's a player you look at, and you look at the last 2 years he's had, and you got to say he's gotten better as a player too. So that's another guy. He got better. And look, in the modern NFL, that tight end, pretty important. So I'm not going to discount the importance of having who has become your number one tight end get better. Defensively, again, it's nothing necessarily massive, but it's significant what's going on this defense. In a few areas, we're seeing players get developed. Little bit of Miles Adams, but we're talking a very small sample size there. Little bit of Jordan Brooks, but I'm still not convinced he's where we want him to be in year 3, given he was a first-round pick. Cody Barton looks slightly more capable, but still not really a player you want to have starting out there. I'm not really talking about those guys. You could have a conversation about them for sure. But you've got Uchenna Nwosu, and I know he wasn't here last year, but he was in the NFL last year, and he was this level of player. He's come here, and immediately he became this level of player. So even though Nwosu wasn't somebody that this coaching staff has been working on for the past couple years or anything, I still look at Nwosu and I go, that is an example of a guy who, under the guidance of this coaching staff, has gotten better. And I'm not, again, it's not the same as somebody like a Will Dissly who's been in your organization his whole career, but he's better. Mike Jackson. Wow, he's better. Now, I know he barely played last year, but he barely played last year. This was a guy who needed injuries to even get on the field. Now he looks like a plus starter. He's playing great left cornerback. So Mike Jackson from 2021 to 2022 has gotten better significantly. And the last one I want to talk about here, and this has been a really important one, Ryan Neal. Ryan Neal played a bunch of safety last year after Adams got hurt. He didn't look very good. He didn't impress me. I was mostly disappointed in Ryan Neal. I was looking to do a little better than Ryan Neal as your backup safety. But he's come in for Jamal this year and played solid. He's looked really good at times. So that's been kind of a season saver because we needed safety help after Jamal went down, of course. But you're starting to see the player development pay dividends here. We're seeing players get better. Last year, I looked at a lot of the things going on this defense. Guys like LJ Collier didn't get better. Puna Ford didn't get better. These guys, if anything, got worse. I thought that maybe Sidney Jones was the one guy you could look at last year. It's like he got better, and that was a case of a guy getting healthy more than anything. But this year, you have multiple key starters who are markedly, notably better than they were in 2021. And that, to me, is a great sign of a coaching staff that is being a positive influence on your team. They're developing players. So defensively, you're talking about Pete. You're talking about Clint Hurt. You're talking about Sean Desai. And offensively, you're talking about a lot of Shane Waldron, mostly, I think. So you can probably trace the person to give credit to all the way down the coaching staff list. VJ, I believe his name is the receiver coach. He does a great job with these receivers in general, I think, and has pretty much ever since he got here. But we are seeing players actually develop here. Last year, there felt like there was a lot of arrested development. Players just stagnated. Alton Robinson went from a guy who was a real spark plug off the bench as a pass rusher last year to a guy who barely played and had very little impact when he did. Collier couldn't even get on the field after looking like he was at least making strides in 2020. This year, Nwosu, much better. Mike Jackson, much better. Ryan Neal, much better. And that's the difference right now. I think that's the main reason why there's so much optimism. Because if you see it happen with these players, you can believe it can happen with other players too. like Darrell Taylor, who could go one way or the other right now for the Seahawks. And I think there's a lot of hope that it goes the positive way. And looking at how this team is developing some of these other players, you look at it and you go, yeah, that could happen. You're also seeing it in the quick development of a guy like a Woolen, and that's the most obvious one. But turning Woolen into a plus starter this early in his career is Herculean. So what I'm trying to say is, I've had issues with his coaching staff, definitely, but they're really turning this stuff around. They're really starting to do things that make me look at the facts and go, yeah, they're doing their job right now. So we'll see where this goes. We'll see where things go for the rest of the year. But as of right now, I can look at this team and come up with 5 starters who are markedly better than they were in 2021. And there might be 1 or 2 more sprinkled in there as well. But 5, I mean, honestly, 5 starters, that's plenty good enough. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you guys think about all this. It's a positive sign, right? Positive sign for multiple reasons. Hopefully it continues going on into 2022. All right, go Hawks.